Here are excerpts of the 5 big beastie books from December's stack of 5. If you need help voting or you're just curious about the tone and the style of the stories, this is just a brief excerpt from the beginning of each book to help you make your decision on whether you want to vote for it or pick it up and read it yourself. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you might want to watch this video, and you can vote on one of the books from the video. Alright, so here are the books. From Aeon, which is a gender-bending epic fantasy. I let the tips of both my swords dig into the sandy arena floor. It was the wrong move, but the dragging pain in my gut was pulling me into a crouch. I watched Swordmaster Rane's bare feet shuffle forward, rebalancing his weight for a sweep cut. Training with him always made my innards cramp with fear, but this was different. This was the bleeding pain. Had I miscounted the moon days? "What are you doing, boy?" he said. I looked up. Rane was standing poised, both of his swords ready for the elegant crosscut that could have taken my head. His hands tightened around the hilts. I knew he wanted to follow through and rid the school of the cripple, but he didn't dare. So if you like that, vote for Aeon. The next excerpt comes from Nevermore, which is a contemporary paranormal story that uses the works of Edgar Allan Poe. By the end of the 4th period, Isabel's espresso buzz from that morning's venti latte had long since worn off. She yawned, fast approaching crash and burn territory, and shifted in her seat as Mr. Swanson droned on and on about the green-eyed monster Desdemona, thus, thou, and yea verily. She traced and retraced the looping spiral designs she'd all but ground into the front of her blue notebook. And with that, Mr. Swanson said, finally snapping closed his ultra-thick teacher's copy of their text, cueing the rest of the class to follow suit with a unanimous thunk. We'll leap into further discussion about Iago and his supposed honesty on Monday. Isabel straightened in her seat, brushed her sheet of blonde hair behind one shoulder, and shut her own book with relish. I know that doesn't really get into the meat of the story or at all what's going on, but that's the beginning of Nevermore. If it intrigues you, vote for Nevermore. From the beginning of Grave Mercy, an epic fantasy about assassin nuns, I bear a deep red stain that runs from my left shoulder down to my right hip, a trail left by the herb witch's poison that my mother used to try to expel me from her womb. That I survived, according to the herb witch, is no miracle, but a sign I have been sired by the god of death himself. I am told my father flew into a rage and raised his hand to my mother even as she lay weak and bleeding on the birthing bed, until the herb witch pointed out to him that if my mother had lain with the god of death, surely he would not stand idly by while my father beat her. So if that intrigues you, vote for Grave Mercy. From Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, a Regency set story of magic. Some years ago, there was in the city of York a society of magicians. They met upon the 3rd Wednesday of every month and read each other long, dull papers upon the history of English magic. They were gentlemen magicians, which is to say they had never harmed anyone by magic, nor ever done anyone the slightest of good. In fact, to own the truth, not one of these magicians had ever cast the smallest spell, nor by magic caused one leaf to tremble upon a tree, made one mote of dust to alter its course, or changed a single hair upon anyone's head. But, with this one minor reservation, they enjoyed a reputation as some of the wisest and most magical gentlemen in Yorkshire. So if you're intrigued by that one, vote for Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. And lastly, from Terrier, the first book in the Becca Cooper series. Now this one starts out with a series of journal entries, which I assume is setting the book up in some way, but because I didn't want to read through all of them, I'm not entirely sure, and I'm not going to read from them because I think it would probably be pointless because it's set up and I don't know what's going on and you won't either. So instead, I'm going to read the little excerpt that they have on the back. The lower city is mine. Its people are mine. If I find them that's doing all the kidnapping and murdering, they'd best pray for mercy. Because once I get my teeth in them, I will never let them go. So if you're intrigued by that, vote for Terrier. So those are the excerpts. Make sure you hop on over to the Stack of 5 video to vote. Votes left here won't count. You of course can comment on what you thought of the excerpts, but the votes only count on the TBR video. So do it there. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy reading!